Hello, this is Miss Andrea, and I'm doing a live today to give answers to any questions anyone might have about homeschooling. As I always say at the start of a live broadcast, I'm not really here for the audience, I'm here to get the content out. So, in the case that I don't have people asking questions, which I hope you do, ask questions if you have them. I have a bunch of questions up on the screen that a lot of people ask anyway. So if you're here, my audience is small right now, and you have a question regarding homeschooling, education in general, college prep, college entry, go ahead and ask it in the comments and I will answer your question. In the meantime, I'm going to start with questions here on my screen. So, why homeschool? Do you not really because you want to, like seriously. But there are so many reasons that will make you want to homeschool. For me, it was that I noticed that my children were changing in a way that did not seem healthy. I was seeing depression in people who were 3 feet tall. You know what I mean? I was seeing physical ailments in one child, um, just tremendous stomach issues. Like, not just like the child's unhappy, it was more like the children were in crisis. And I knew that I had to do something right away. Long story short, we had moved 3 times in 4 years to different states, and each state gave us different sets of challenges. And the final move, when we thought we were going to settle down and stay, and we did, um, we thought that would fix the challenges, and it exacerbated them. Because by year two, the end of year two in that environment, it became super clear that it wasn't a problem of changing schools, it was a problem of school. So basically, I homeschooled my children so that they would be happier children and so that they could be children. Other people homeschool their children because they want more academically. Some people want less stress and want the children to be more relaxed in their younger years. Some people have religious reasons. Some people just want a freer lifestyle for their children. And that is why people homeschool. That is why I homeschool. Once again, I see my audience is growing, so I'm answering homeschool questions live. If you have a question about homeschooling, education in general, college prep, go ahead and ask in the comments. Next question. How do I begin homeschooling my kindergartner? I always giggle when people ask me how to homeschool a kindergartner. Like, how do you teach a 2-year-old to talk, to walk, to tie their shoes, to do the same thing? Kindergarten's not as big a deal as everyone thinks it is. Um, at that point, kindergarten skills are basically just counting. What should a child in kindergarten? Let's pull it up. And teaching them to read. Um, Kindergarten curriculum focuses largely on mastering letters, sounds, and words. Um, they expand their vocabulary, they write the letters of the alphabet, they learn all the sounds of the alphabet, they learn phonetics, and they learn to phonetically read. There are going to be sight words in there that different people use. Writing, they're going to learn to write their name, and by the end of the year, they'll be writing short sentences like the cat ran home. Why would a cat run home? Anyway, they're going to learn to count to 30. They're going to learn their shapes, and they're going to learn to name different objects. All you need to homeschool a kindergartner is a checklist. Um, My favorite book for homeschooling young children is called What Your Kindergartner Needs to Know. They also have What Your Preschooler Needs to Know, what your first grader needs to know. It goes through sixth or seventh grade, and then it's what your high schooler needs to know. Um, so, what your blank needs to know. That book has the math in it, it has basic reading skills in it, and then it's full of stories and rhymes that children all over the country are familiar with. So your child, if you're homeschooling them, won't have a lack of familiarity with things that are taught in schools or things that are just taught in modern culture. So to homeschool your kindergartner, you just need a checklist or that particular book, what your blank schooler needs to know in the case of kindergarten, what your kindergarten needs to know. Um, and you need play dates. Boom, homeschooled kindergarten. No biggie, right? So if you have a question, ask and I'll answer your question. In the meantime, I will answer from the stack of questions that I have over here. What resources are available for a homeschooling child with special needs? That varies from state to state. In some states, like mine, for instance, when you register to homeschool, you will get a letter in the spring of the next year. And the letter will say something to the effect of, we provide services for your homeschooled child. You just need to bring them to the school to get tested, and then we will pick it up from there. Um, it defeats the purpose a little bit, but if you know your child is profoundly autistic or something like that, you might want that public school help. When I took my children out of public school, um, they were really on me about my youngest child being attention deficit. And so, I kept saying, I don't want your services. I don't want your services. And then, so because I kept them in school that last year until summer, I told them I was going to homeschool, and then I just left them in school until summer. Um, they called me and they were like, well, your child has a speech impediment that we can help them with, because they were trying hard to provide services so that they could have the money, the public money, for my child being enrolled, even though I was homeschooling. So I said, okay, you can test her on speech. I made an appointment. When I got there, they had already tested her and they had tested her for ADHD. So they went behind my back and tested her. So you have to just watch. You have to watch the tactics they take to test your child. You can say that you disagree with the assessment and have it wiped clean, which is what I did. And I took my child to a private assessor. And what I learned was that my child was not attention deficit, that I was attention deficit, and my child was sharing a lot of my mannerisms and ways. So if I lose track while I'm speaking right now, it's because I'm squirrely and I forget what I'm talking about. Um, but if you do need special needs for your child, some states and some schools will provide it. I just urge you to be as in charge of that process as possible. And if they ask too much of you as a parent who is homeschooling, then you can say, you know what, no, I don't, want your help. And you can get private help. I mean, that's part of the thing of homeschooling. We're not taking public funds, we're not taking public services. We're doing things privately. But there are services. Um, how do I keep my kids focused on their schoolwork at home? Start small and grow. Small children, you really have to keep them moving from subject to subject. You can't expect a first grader to do math for 90 minutes. It's not going to happen. There are going to be tears. The child's going to be crying. You're going to be crying, right? Instead, you say, okay, we're going to add for 15 minutes, and then we're going to count, sing numbers, watch a video, and then we're going to subtract for 15 minutes. You have to do small spurts for small children. Every year, you increase that time that they're concentrated on a learning activity. And by the time they're in high school, my kids would pull full 10-hour days. Now, we only fully homeschooled 3 days a week. So that was 30 hours in a week. And then we did like a half a day Thursday. And then they had classes outside the home for the other day and a half. But yeah, my kids could pull 10-hour days by the time they were in high school. But we started out bite sized when they were small. Okay. So, like I've said before, we've been doing this 20 minutes. If anyone has a question for me regarding homeschooling, regarding education in general, regarding what you need to know to get into college and to get scholarships, go ahead and ask it in the comments. Meanwhile, I'm going to work on the questions that are over here. How do I plan my homeschool day when life is so busy? If you're homeschooling, that's your main thing for the day. A lot of people like to say, you can work homeschooling around your life, and you can, but it still has to be a major priority. If you're homeschooling your kids, you're homeschooling your kids, and the law says 4 to 5 hours a day, which is actually pretty equal to the 6 or 7 hours in the classroom because there's less time waiting. So let's say you have a job, you work from home, and you are homeschooling. That's when you get flexible. Say your work hours are super traditional. You work from 8 to 5 with a lunch break. Yet you have this kid over here you need to homeschool. Well, you get up at 7. You give your child a list of easy activities to do, read, do this math, do that thing, and you just let them at it during the day. At 5, you all have dinner, and then from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have 4 hours to fully homeschool by law. You can go over the work you assigned to them. You can explain anything they didn't understand. You can engage with them one-on-one. But your decision to homeschool needs to be paramount, and you don't just squeeze it in. Exceptions. Your child is an actor. Acting children can homeschool in between scenes. Acting homeschool children homeschool in the car. Acting homeschool children find an hour here and there to homeschool. Same with gymnastics, same with ice skaters. The rule is 4 to 5 hours a day. So if they're rehearsing from 9 to noon, they can homeschool from 8 to 9. They can homeschool from 12 to 1. And then there's another activity in the afternoon. Maybe they do that from 2 to 4. Then they can homeschool from 5 to 8. So, if there's something structured in your life, like a job or an activity for the kids, that's when I, break up the homeschooling hour by hour and slot it in. But I wouldn't count on living my life as normal and then squeezing homeschooling in. That's kind of unfair and doesn't give homeschooling the justice it needs. How can I homeschool my older kids while taking care of my young children? And I may have answered this before. Um, Young children just don't need as much time as older children. And older children, you can give assignments to and give them their attention later. So you get the older kids started while the young kids are still asleep or eating breakfast or just waking up. You give them their assignments, you sit them down, you explain anything you need to explain. And then you spend the morning entertaining the young children while the older children are working independently. You put the younger children to nap after lunch. The older kids get your one-on-one attention again. And then maybe after dinner, you spend another 2 hours with the older children. It's just not as hard as it sounds. Ooh. How can I buy homeschool curriculum on a tight budget? The internet and the library. Um, I only paid for homeschool tutors, and then I paid for homeschool programs. I paid for a voice tutor, I paid for a math tutor sometimes, and I paid for the arts program that my children attended, which covered art and theater and all of that jazz. The rest of it, because I was spending so much, was free. Khan Academy was math. There used to be a site called Hippocampus that still kind of exists for the AP subjects. Um, there's just so much free material out there and free curriculum out there, and even curriculum that only costs $10 a month out there. You can do this on a tight budget. Money dictates the extras. It doesn't dictate the education. Just like a public school parent, the ones with more money have their kids in summer camps and, you know, special tutors and all of that. Um, and the ones that don't, when the school day is over, they come home and they do what they do. It's the same for public school. If you have the money, spend it on extra things. But the actual homeschooling, there's so many free resources out there. You just really don't need to spend a lot of money. Should I teach every subject personally, or is there a benefit to using some video curriculum? There's a benefit to using some video curriculum. And no one can teach everything personally on their own. It's just too hard. Everyone is going to have a subject that they either hate or that they are weak at. In that case, you take advantage of the YouTubes. My goodness, the homeschool classes I teach for homework, I assign YouTube videos and questions. Watch the YouTube video, answer this question, tell me what you think. Back when I was homeschooling, a lot of homeschooling was all video, and that gets to be monotonous. I wouldn't go 100% video. I wouldn't use a curriculum that was solely relied on all video all the time. It is just too much. However, a little bit like where you're weak, use video and or a tutor. Absolutely, don't try to teach everything yourself. The most important thing that you can know as a homeschooler is what you don't know and what you can't teach. Because once you have that down, you can get the help you need and be more effective. Okay, so here's some negative questions. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to give my speech. I'm here to answer homeschool questions. I've been homeschooling since 2003. I graduated my kids. They finished college. One has a master's degree. One's actually going into a fellowship this summer. And I help other people homeschool, and especially gifted in college prep situations. Okay, so I got this question off of Quora, one of those question and answer sites. And the question is it very easy for homeschool students to cheat on tests? Who are you cheating? Who are you cheating? If you're doing those like homeschool paces, and I did a video on homeschool paces, by the way, I hate homeschool paces because there's no interaction and there's no real learning. Sorry for people who love homeschool paces. Yeah, it's easy for the children to just copy the answers and show their parent and say, I did it. But who are you cheating? You're cheating yourself. Most homeschoolers actually don't really give too many tests. My children were required to write essays. I wanted to hear their thoughts. Or in the younger years, after learning a new skill, I would verbally question them. Homeschoolers don't waste a lot of time with paper tests. Like, we'll keep a grade book and we'll write down our assessment if we're really good at keeping records, and we've got to be really good at keeping records by the time they get to 8th grade, by the way. But there's not as many opportunities to cheat when you're homeschooling because it's a one-on-one education. It's conversational. So good luck, you know, on the cheating idea. Okay. And someone else asked the question, how are we on time? Should I homeschool my son so he can cheat on all his tests and get high marks? Okay, that person was just baiting an argument. Clearly, it was a trolling question because when you're homeschooling, the tests, the only real tests are going to be your college entry tests, where the SAT, the ACT. So if you haven't been doing what you're supposed to have been doing all this time, by the time you get to college entry test, there's no way to cheat on them. Has anyone been in an ACT or SAT room? You can't even send the wrong person anymore. It's all ID based. It's crazy. So, okay, that's a stupid question. Let's not let's not answer stupid questions. Okay. Let's answer some questions from Reddit. If anyone has a better homeschool question for me, ask it. I will answer it in real time. Okay. Someone is saying that the idea of sending her kids to public school depresses her, but her husband is against homeschooling. So basically, she's homeschooling and she knows her husband doesn't agree, but she's going to do it anyway. I strongly caution against homeschooling when both parents don't agree to it. I will get to your question in 1 second, Felix. Thank you for asking. Oh, Dawn, thank you. I strongly suggest against homeschooling when one parent doesn't agree. I have seen far too many cases where a marriage will break up over disagreement and how to raise the children. And homeschooling is a main component of how to raise the children. And then what happens? The parent who disagreed with homeschooling goes to court and accuses the homeschooling parent of educational neglect. That's super bad. You could actually be arrested for that. And they end up with custody of the children, and the person who wanted to homeschool the homeschool the kids now have zero say in homeschooling. I started a series on my YouTube channel about how to integrate homeschool tactics when you're public schooling. I think maybe you might want to start there because the idea is that you can't not ever homeschool. Full disclosure, my husband wanted my kids homeschooled and I said bad things to him. I didn't want to do it. But later on, when I saw that my children were suffering, I rethought things. So my thought is that you do homeschool things with your kids after school, holidays, summer. And then the other parent might be like, that's interesting. The kid just learned more with you on one weekend than they learned at school, and change the tide. But let the parent who's most against homeschooling be the one to make the decision for your marriage, please. So, hi, hopefully I didn't miss you discussing this, but can you discuss ways to keep records? Oh, I love record keeping. I started homeschooling in 2020. Dawn, what's my notebook? This isn't my main notebook. Notebook. You just need a notebook. And this isn't a homeschool notebook because I have lots of notebooks. A notebook, a date book, any kind of book, right? Every 2 days, every 2 pages, every 2 pages is 1 day. So this is my personal journal. So I have my calendar, and then I have my to-dos, and then I have just things I need to remember. But what you would do for a homeschooler is you would you would date it, you would put their assignments for the day here, and then on the other page, you can put what they completed or what they scored, just your assessment of a verbal conversation, um, and things like that. But just literally keep a calendar, literally just write down everything academically they do that day, which includes field trips, which includes museum trips, which includes documentaries they watch, which includes things they read. At the bottom of every page, I would do a reading list. At the end of every month, I would compile the reading list. But literally, it doesn't matter the format. Just keep a date book. Dawn, did I answer your question at all? Just keep a date book. And the most important things to have in the date book is how much time they spend on each subject. For example, I would, oh, this notebook is full. There's nowhere to write in it. For example, especially in subjects like math, because some colleges are going to want to know how much time they spent doing that subject that you just gave them an A for. So, for instance, for my daughter, algebra was really hard for her. So we would do, chapter this, do this lesson to this lesson. And then she would do it and bring me the notebook and I would check it. And I'd put what time she started and what time she stopped. And then I would put like 90 minutes, 40 minutes, 67 minutes next to it. Because at the end of the year, and I'd put it in the same place on the page every day, I could flip through and compile. And at the end of the year, I could say, she did Algebra 1. These are the chapters she did. This is how she scored in each chapter. And then I could add up all the minutes and say 150 hours she spent on Algebra 1, and she scored an 87. That's for subjects that are very score centric. History, science, things like that. You ask questions, they answer them, and you can just put little notations. But just keep a calendar and have 2 pages for each day. And some of the kids that I counsel love this colorful format that I have, because parents can put assignments on one side and then children can write, whatever, a summary of what they read, or just their feelings about the day or whatever on the other side. And that does a really good job of keeping records. I am actually working on a homeschool journal book, because I have specific ideas about what students need to be college ready. So please subscribe to my channel, and I will make sure that when that is done, probably end of summer, I hope earlier, you can know about it. But you can also go on to, oh, I need water. You can also go on to Amazon and get a homeschool journal or homeschool record keeper also. And start keeping track in 8th grade and get them in the habit of keeping track in 5th or 6th grade, so that by the time they get to high school, they'll be in the habit of showing their work, and you or they, or if the 2 of you together, will be able to write down how much time you spent on each subject. Okay, thanks for asking. Any more questions, please ask. I am here. Let's see, what other questions do I have? Okay, this question is from a homeschool student, and things aren't going well. And this is super important. What they're saying is, I am 16 years old and in 11th grade. My mom stopped actually teaching me in 8th grade, and I've just been BSing my way through high school because I don't have any help. I just need help or advice on what to do because I can't keep feeling this way. I don't understand any of the stuff I need to do. My mom doesn't like it when I ask for help. I can't do Algebra 1. Where do I go from here? First of all, this happens. And I hate that it's true, but it's true. Parents burn out. And when the child gets a certain age, you look at the child and goes, you can homeschool yourself now. And that's just not how it works. It's not how any of it works. Um, wow. 11th grade and no algebra one. Khan Academy. Khan Academy. There are free online programs that will help you with math. And if Khan Academy doesn't do it for you, you watch the Khan Academy video, you do the practice, and if you still don't get it, then you you go to YouTube and you search for whatever that specific topic is, and you watch someone else work through that type of math problem. Because sometimes in math, one person's explanation just doesn't click with you the way someone else's explanation will click with you. Video, video, video. If you reach a certain point and your parent has checked out of homeschooling, you're going to unfortunately be in a position to, I told you guys I was ADHD. Your parents have checked out of homeschooling. You need to homeschool yourself, unfortunately. And you know what? I'm going to make a video on and a checklist on what a high schooler needs to do who feels that they are on their own. But the short answer is, I know she's probably giving you textbooks. You just go online and get instructional videos for that. Crash Course has amazing videos that explains everything so succinctly and well. Khan Academy, it's just so many videos out there that will help you learn if your parents aren't. If you're a parent and you think your child can homeschool themselves once they hit 13, you're wrong. Give them the attention they need or send them back to school. Also, young people, look into getting into community college and doing dual enrollment. Community college is only a little bit harder than high school. So you'll be getting a close to high school experience. So there's some options too, but thank you. That's something I'm going to be going back to, and we'll be talking about that soon. Dawn says, I've been keeping a planner listing everything we work on, but I wasn't writing down the time spent. Very good ideas. I'll be looking for your planner. Thank you, Dawn. Once they get to 8th grade and they start doing subjects that that colleges accept as high school credit, it's just one of those things that helps is to know that they spent 150 hours doing algebra, 100 hours doing geometry, etc., and so forth. Okay? Very, very important. And I think one college, SCAD in particular, Savannah College of Art and Design, was very specific about that question, and a couple of others. So I put it in the portfolio, and every college accepted my kids because that little thing that one college asked for, I made sure everybody got. Okay, so it is April. In Georgia, where I live, school ends in less than 2 months. Middle of April, middle of May. No, early April, early May. School ends in about 6 weeks. And so this question here that came 2 days ago is it too late in the traditional public school year to begin homeschooling? Is it too late in the traditional public school year to begin homeschooling? If you live in Georgia, absolutely. They're in Texas. Ooh, still absolutely. They end early too. If you were in New York, you would have a month more. Guys, April is too late. And that's kind of what I ran into when I started homeschooling my kids. And what I did with those last 2 months that I had was I sent them to school. But I basically told the teachers, look, we're homeschooling next year. Don't stress out my kids. From this point on, nothing you says matters. And I went to the library and I got every book I could get on homeschooling. And I started reading. I learned about teaching styles. There's a video of that on here. I learned about learning styles. I learned about right brain versus left brain. I learned about ADHD brain, which I have. Um, I learned everything I can learn, and then I learned about different homeschool approaches, and that helped me formulate how I was going to tackle our first year of homeschooling. That changed, but at least I had the knowledge and I felt confident that I kind of knew what I was doing. So if you're going to homeschool, I wouldn't pull them out of school unless things are going really, 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 really bad and your children are emotionally not okay. In that case, pull them out, call the year done, um, and start fresh, maybe midsummer. You might give them a month off and start fresh midsummer, reevaluate, see where they're behind, catch them up, grade them for the year. But I personally, unless things are really bad, would keep them in for the rest of the school year, call that year done, take those grades, and then start the next year on the next grade level. Someone who's homeschooling said they need a school name for their diploma. You don't need a school name for your diploma. Um, you can just say, if you go to there's several homeschool diploma websites and they have suggestions, and you can just say homeschool diploma. If you want a school name, a lot of people just say Johnson Family Homeschool or whatever. That one hair is driving me nuts. Whatever your homeschool name is. I have 15 minutes left, so if anyone has a question about homeschooling, education in general, college prep, getting into college with scholarships, ask. In the meantime, I still have some questions over here that I can entertain you with. Okay, that one made me mad. Suggestions for online socialization. Hello, my two sons and I homeschool in Michigan. We pulled from public school at the start of this year due to many factors unrelated to COVID. Due to health concerns, we cannot do co-ops in person socialization for a long while. And I'm struggling finding virtual socialization options for my boys. Okay, I'm less mad. The thing is, when I see the word socialization, I get an attitude because socialization doesn't really mean the ability to socialize with other kids. Socialization on a scientific level means that the children train each other on how to be and what to believe. Children with extreme beliefs at home tend to come more to center when put with other kids. And that's what socialization is. It's not necessarily what any family wants their kids to go to school so that they can come home and argue with them about what they believe. Sometimes it's good, but that's beside the point. But in this case, homeschoolers are extremely social beings. People say we're awkward and weird. Who isn't? I've been weird my whole life. When I was in school, when I was in Catholic school, I've always been weird. I'm always going to be weird. So anyway, there goes my ADHD again. So this person is in a unique position where they want to socialize, but health problems are keeping them away from other kids, and they're looking for online options. I work with homeschoolers, and they've been very upset this year because homeschools are extremely social and they spend a lot of time together. In fact, parents have to fight to get the kids to stop asking to go over each other's house because that mom might need a break from you. Just because she's got a big basement doesn't mean everybody should live there. Um, but what my personal students have been doing is playing D&D type games online, doing Dungeons and Dragon campaigns. There are websites where you can go on and everyone can play an electronic game together. Yeah, I would just set up game playing sessions. Zoom has been a lifesaver. They usually video chat and pen pal their cousins from out of state. So find other homeschool kids. Just go on the homeschool Facebook groups. Just type in homeschool Facebook group, type in your state, type in your county, heck, type in your city, and say, we're kind of quarantined to the house for health reasons, have nothing to do with COVID. We need friends via Zoom. No problem, you'll have them. Don't worry so much about socialization and socializing. Oh, this is a good question. Comparing. I want to stop comparing my kids to schooled kids because my anxiety gets the better of me. My kids seem to be behind in reading, spelling, math, etc. We do academic curriculum 5 days a week, but where we live is super academic in general. Everyone is chasing a STEM career. I want some advice on how to not let the stress get to me. In my country, getting high grades or passing highly competitive entrance examinations is mandatory for college admission, unlike in the US. Okay, so this isn't the US. I am not an expert on homeschooling outside of the US. And our approach is super more laid back. The thing is, your child, here's the thing. I find that children aren't going to be good at everything. The really, really smart kids, the gifted children, aren't going to be smart at everything, but they're going to be exceptional at something. Your goal as a parent is to figure out what that something is and let them soar in that area. Because they could end up being a prodigy in one thing and just average in everything else. That's more of the sign of true genius than someone who gets all A's. If you're in a highly competitive nation, city, state, family, my suggestion is don't try to do it all yourself. Once again, consider tutoring. Consider one-on-one. Your kids are going to learn more. Hire college students. They're cheaper and they're passionate to sit with your kids and teach them. There's so many online websites for tutoring that have grown tremendously this year. But I don't know what to tell you if your culture is that competitive. If it's not working for you, change things so that your kids can get up, at least in one or two subjects where they're exceptional. But I just don't expect children to be exceptional at everything. Generally, if you're exceptional in math and science, your verbal skills aren't as good. And if you're exceptional in verbal skills, languages, language arts, histories, things like that, your math and science might be weaker. Just try to do what's best for your child and your child's gifts. When they turn 20, no one's going to care what scores they got in school. So I'm going to take a drink of water and I'm going to sign off in 7 minutes. So if you have a question, am I signing off in 7 minutes? How long have I been on? No, I'm not. I'm not signing off in 7 minutes. I'm signing off in 15 minutes. If you have a question, ask it now. Homeschool, public school, education in general, college prep, etc. Ooh, a specific question. Senior looking for good US government book. I'm about to graduate as a senior, but I never took high school US government course. I should have thought about this much earlier, but I never thought I needed one, and my parents never really thought about it either. The school should have told you. I have enough history courses taken where I'll be able to graduate fine, but I wish to get a proper education in inner workings and processes of the government for adult life, I suppose. Any good curriculum you would recommend? I suggest that you look into CLEP, CLEP. It is a testing system, and you work towards taking the CLEP exam because it's almost like an AP. Number one, what textbook do you use? Any high school textbook. Go on Amazon and type in US government textbook. You can get a used one for about $20, work your way through. And then I would use Crash Course and watch all the videos for Crash Course Government. Um, and then there's some online study sites that help you study for the CLEP exam. Having that goal to take that exam is going to help you be more diligent about getting that information under your belt. But seriously, just a public school, high school, government book would do well. I personally, in my homeschool co-op, we're actually doing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign type government course. Um, and I'll have that published in a year or so, but that's not going to help you right now. But we actually use the public school textbook as the spine, as the outline for what we do. And I would recommend the same thing. Open the government book, look at the outline for each topic, go on YouTube and watch a video. You're going to learn so much. I wanted to know how to prepare a portfolio. My daughter is sixth grade. I live in New Jersey. Doesn't matter where you live, portfolio is a portfolio. So for every course your child takes, you need 1 to 3 pages. Sixth grade, world geography. And it's usually more 7th or 8th grade, but that's the course I can think of. Say world geography is your social studies course. So you have 1 page, and at the top, it'll say grade, blah, blah, world geography, right? And you'll leave a little square out in the top corner to put the final grade in. And then you'll, whatever textbook you use, you'll write the table of contents down that page. Chapter 1, chapter 2, all the way to chapter whatever. And then you just, I wish I had the paper in front of me to show it to you. But you just basically write the table of contents so that anyone looking at that page knows what subject matters were covered. If you skip a chapter because no teacher covers every chapter, just leave that chapter out. And then if you do little quizzes for each chapter, then next to that title, you can handwrite in the grade for each quiz. And then for something like social studies, I also have them write a paper. So the next page would be their writing, the paper that they wrote for that class. And that would be graded. And then the back at the top of that first page, when the year's over, I just put a grade at the top. Every course gets 1 to 3 pages. Social studies usually gets the table of contents, which are grade, and then an essay. Language arts gets grades on the grammar mechanics, and then an essay at the beginning of the year and an essay at the end of the year, because you want to show their growth. Math, full table of contents, which is a grade, one page, and whatever textbook you used. Science is going to have the name of the textbook, the table of contents, your grade for them, and then a couple of pages that shows their experiments. So basically, you just need the top of the page, the course name, the textbook or textbooks. Sometimes I say, we use this textbook, and then we also use Crash Course government videos. Then we do the table of contents, any grades they may have gotten, a written paper or project, final grade. Did you get a visual picture of that? When I publish this video, I will link back to one of the many videos I've done on portfolios. So I hope that'll help. If it didn't help, ask a deeper question and I will try to answer it. Guys, my voice is dying. And I have about 10 minutes left. Ooh, So that question I was working on before about the student looking to study U.S. government on his own, some people make some great suggestions. Someone suggested learner.org, which is a video series. Um, Someone suggested reading the actual source material. In history, actual source material is so important. Federalist Papers, the Constitution, as part of the D&D campaign that we're doing at my homeschool co-op, the children have had to read the Constitution and then write a Constitution for a fictional um, country. They had to write the Constitution for the fictional country, and then they had to ratify the Constitution, and they just finished writing bills, and then they did the Senate thing where they passed some bills and vetoed some and filibustered some, and next we're going to create the economy and the year is going to be over. But yeah, there's just so, guys, you can learn. If I've learned nothing from homeschooling in all these years, it's that I'm capable of learning anything on my own. As parents homeschooling our kids, our job is to teach them, if you have a curiosity, scratch it. Um, my daughter's high school portfolio had more courses than anyone would ever need to graduate because she would just go off on these tangents on her own, come back and say, hey, I've been listening to this podcast for 3 months. Can I write a paper on it and get a grade? And I'm like, yeah. And she'd write the paper and I'd be like, dang, this is good research, and I'd give her a half credit for that. Um, and it wasn't her cheating me either. Like, she knew her stuff. She took up costuming as part of her homeschool program that we were in. She just got real bossy when it came to costumes because she wasn't happy with what was going on with the costumes. And before I knew it, she'd gotten permission to go in, reorganize the entire costume closet, got input. The only student that got input in costuming drew sketches, the whole deal. And then she took that and went to a local theater and got an internship, brought the internship note back to the homeschool program. And they were like, based on what you did last year and this, we're adding a full credit. We don't offer costuming at our homeschool program, but you've done the work. So guys, you can learn whatever you want. But as parents, you need to push the children and help them think of ideas and encourage them to follow through and to write the essay based on that educational tangent they took, that they just did for enjoyment. It's like, hey, you've been taking photographs for 2 years. Let's print these and take this to our artist friend and put together a portfolio. Anything you want to learn is free to you when you're homeschooling. It's just that you have to feed the curiosities and you have to feed the passions. Okay, so secular history programs. Homeschooling traditionally, the resurgence in homeschooling, because we know people homeschooled before public school became a thing. The resurgence of homeschooling in this country was generally led by religious people. And so therefore, they wrote the textbooks, they wrote the curriculums, they got us all started on this wonderful journey called homeschooling. I am Christian, but I believe in secular homeschooling. When the kid enters to college, I want them to know what every other kid knows. And if something that I'm teaching doesn't jive with my religion, I want to be able to discuss it and challenge it. So I use secular curriculum. But how do we find secular curriculum? This person says they're looking for secular history curriculum that is suitable for first and fourth grader. Everything I have come across has been very biased toward Christian Bible and writing history around them. This is why I have a homeschool co-op. I am actively writing one chapter a week on history. Last year, the course that we wrote for our first year in our homeschool program was called Influencers in American History. And we started with the people involved in the Boston Tea Party. Then we went to George Washington. We went through a lot of the presidents. And we just taught them about everyone important they needed to know in American history, all the way up to Ronald Reagan. But what I've had to do over the years is one, use a public school textbook. You just go on Amazon and Google public school textbook for that grade. And for history, you don't have to stick to grade. You can teach a first and a third grader on a second or third grade, a first and a fourth grade on a second and third grade curriculum. You can teach two kids 2 to 3 years apart the same history every year, as long as it gets around to everything that they're going to need to know. But yeah, always use a public school textbook, and then I use the spine of that textbook. And then we know that the public school textbooks are also problematic because they soften the hard parts about history, and I don't. So then I have to use research, use some governmental websites, some national websites, some history websites, and go deeper on some subjects. Subjects I went deeper on last year while doing the American history course. There were some things about the Boston Tea Party that aren't well known that I made sure I added. We went in deep on Trail of Tears. We went in deep on Reconstruction. Gold Rush, China immigration, Japanese internment. There were just, those areas where the textbooks graze over. I just did my research and went in deeper. You might have to recreate the wheel. Hopefully by the time these 5 years are over, I will have a full secular friendly homeschool textbook series to offer people. That is what I'm doing full time. I am teaching homeschool classes 1.5 days a week, and I am currently writing textbooks for my homeschool program and for other people. But yeah, I'm Christian. Nothing against Christianity. I just think that the Christian homeschool curriculums are over teaching Bible. If you want to teach Bible, just teach Bible. Why do I need to teach Bible history and then teach Bible? That's what aggravated me and my children. My kids were like, we already did Bible. Why is this in my history? Do you know what I mean? And so I had to pull out and say, let's talk about people, and let's talk about topics and subjects, and let's talk about them honestly, and let's not sugarcoat them. And if they disagree with what we believe, then let's just discuss it. Okay, less than 2 minutes to go. What else? What other questions do I have that I can answer for you? Homeschool program accreditation. Is it necessary? It depends on your goals. Both of my kids, I homeschooled them myself, and I also used like a homeschool co-op, a hybrid homeschool program for all the extracurriculars. My son's diploma was not accredited. I could have had it accredited because that homeschool program also had a hard academic day, but my son was actually more advanced than that, so I ended up teaching him at home, and we did a little dual enrollment with online public school. I think 1 or 2 classes he did online public school class. But we did not, at the end of the day, his high school diploma was not accredited. Did it hurt? Some colleges pushed back. They were state colleges. They made the bar to get into them higher for homeschoolers than they were for public school kids. That has changed now. And then the next year, I had another child going into college, and I freaked out, and I went to an accreditation agency, a woman who had a homeschool program that was accredited, and had her review my daughter's whole portfolio, every course for 4 years, approve every grade I gave, and then issue her um, an accredited homeschool diploma. Guess what she didn't need? She didn't need that accredited homeschool diploma. Her scholarship was based on talent. She got a full college scholarship, and three colleges offered her scholarships based on talent. So it depends. I mean, if in my state, it just helps to have accreditation because that means you can take advantage of the whole program first year. If you're homeschool not accredited in my state, um, they have to get um, once they meet those first year requirements in college, then they'll give them the whole scholarship for that junior, for that sophomore year, and then retroactively for the freshman year. But if you need that money up front, accreditation will help. Um, but it wasn't necessary for us, and it's just not necessary for so many people because a lot of people are getting it. They're in our state, a homeschool diploma is legal. Colleges have to accept it. They get to look at the portfolio and they look at test scores and see if the child is up to the level they need to be to go to that college. But you can't say you can't come to our school because you're a homeschool, you get what you do. It's not allowed. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for hanging out with me. It is time to sign off. We have been here for over an hour, and my voice is fried. Um, I'm going to try to do a live at least every other week. If you have questions that you think of in the meantime, go into any of my videos or go into the comments on this video once it's published and ask those questions. And those will be the first questions in line to be answered the next time I do a live. So I'm going to try to do a live at least every other weekend, if not every weekend. And then on Monday, sometimes Tuesday, I will be releasing a video from our homeschool series that is based on teaching homeschool tips and tricks that everyone can use, whether they are homeschooled or not. So once again, thanks a lot. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. If you have questions, ask in the comments. So until next time.